it looks good. Hi, welcome to the Art App, and today I'm going to give you an update for my Project Pen Eyeshadows edition. I've made a little executive decision to split this project in two separate videos. The first one is about eyeshadows, this one, where we talk looks, colors, techniques, and the other one is dedicated to the other products that I am currently penning. And I'm very excited to tell you that things look very nice. But let's take it one eyeshadow at a time, shall we? The first shade in this palette is this soft ivory matte. Super basic and super useful. I use it almost every day, not only just to set my lid or maybe fix blending in my underbrow area, but also sometimes during filming when I need to brighten this area. So in total, only in this update, I got 34 uses out of the shade. 34 uses and no pen. There isn't even the slightest hint of the ring. Initially, I thought it would be among the first one that I would hit pen in or finish, but it's still here, it's still going strong. Then we have this everyday cool tone gold. Actually, this is my second most used eyeshadow in this palette, especially for work. You can put it all over your lid, add a little bit of brown eyeliner, a little bit of red lipstick, and you're ready to go. Once, I think I even used this eyeshadow as my highlighter, but it was too sparkly for my liking. It was like scattered glitter all over my cheek. I had already hit pan in this eyeshadow during my last update, and after additional 17 uses, I already start seeing the ring of the pen. Moving on to this greenish patina gold shade. To tell you the truth, I have slightly ignored it over the last 2 months because I was hyper-focused on finishing this shade. I was trying to squeeze as much usage out of it as possible. But I think this one should be pretty easy to finish because it is one of those put all over the lid shades. But actually, this is a cover story. This shade has a secret. The real use of this shade comes from combining it with this dark lavender satin. I learned that pretty recently. So, as you remember, during my previous update, I was asking for some advice on how to use this eyeshadow because it was barely touched. And I got an amazing suggestion of combining these two on my lids in order to create a gradient. But since this shade is so sheer, you would never guess that I had these two eyeshadows on. I also tried putting it along my lower lash line, but somehow it just magically disappeared from there. And all those misfortunes made me very reluctant to continue using it until I had one of those aha moments. If this eyeshadow is that sheer, maybe I should stop treating it as a lead shade and use it for layering instead. And that was a game changer. Here I'm wearing that greenish patina gold shade all over my lid. After slightly tapping that troublemaking deep lavender shade over the patina gold, I get some complex antiquish kind of gold with silver and purple specks. Something easy, very flattering, and extremely sophisticated. I'm really happy that I managed to find this combination because I didn't want to downgrade this eyeshadow to being yet another nail polish in my collection, though I did use it as one at least 5 times. After finding this layering technique, I do see a bright future of this eyeshadow in my future panning journey. The second draw starts from light lavender satin shade, and after 15 uses, I finally hit pan in it. My first pan in this update, actually. Though I kind of saw it coming because it was my go-to in a corner highlight. Seriously, if I'm not testing out my other eyeshadow palettes, the high chances are if I need an inner corner pop, I would be reaching for this eyeshadow. Coming next is this lilac pink duochrome, and it is the second eyeshadow with pan in it. Yay! Mainly because it was the official eyeshadow for my work for this week. Since I've been testing and mixing a lot of blushes, if you are wondering why, here is the video explaining it. I usually ended up with more than one application, and since I didn't want them to go to waste and majority of them were leaning pinkish, without thinking, I was picking that eyeshadow for my eye look. I used it 19 times and not all of them on eyes. This thing doubles beautifully as a highlighter. This duochrome shift is chef's kiss, and I believe I tapped in it as a highlighter at least 6 times. This is my first official empty pan in this palette. Can't believe I did that. It used to keep this very beautiful peachy to pink duochrome, and during my last update I had a little bit of crumbs of it scattered over the bottom of the pan, but after 5 uses I have completely cleared out the pan. I mainly use it as my highlighter. It worked effortlessly good as a highlighter, but sometimes I also used it as my inner corner pop, though I do prefer this lavender shade for that. Then comes the Troublemaker. Every project panner has at least one in their eyeshadow palette. For me, it is this deeper magenta leaning satin shade. It gives me flashbacks to the times where I was panning my Modern Renaissance palette and I had 2 mid-tone pinkish eyeshadows, one of which ended up being used as my nail polish, and the second one is going through the same thing. So naturally, I thought that this is the destiny for this eyeshadow as well. And to be honest, I've already used it at least 5 times as my nail polish, but one day I felt a little bit experimental. I wanted a kind of rosy tone smudged inverted eyeliner moment, and it turned out to be so good that I ended up checking myself in every mirror I passed. It wasn't too grungy and it wasn't too soft. It was just a perfect balance. And in order to create that look, I used these 3 shades. This one I used to sketch the liner. This notorious magenta satin I used to smudge my upper and lower lash line. And this one I used all over the lid and a little bit above. I loved this look so much that I'm definitely going to do it again. And this is what I love about project panning. If you put your hat into it, you will make it work. Moving on to shade number 9, Sweet, Easy, Peachy shade. It is super easy, super friendly, super work appropriate. Usually I pop it in the center of my lid to brighten things up. But recently I tried it as my blush and I really loved it. Before I used it as my inner corner highlight, but it was too dark for that. When I used it as a blush alone, it also didn't work. It was too light. But when you combine these two, it's a perfect combination. I have already used it 15 times and I do see how the dip is forming. Before, it was barely touched. So number 10, it is the only remaining true brown in this palette, and obviously it is my most used eyeshadow in this palette. I've reached for it at least 38 times, and obviously you can see a big shiny pan in it. Anytime I use any eyeshadow from this palette, I put this shade in my crease. And interestingly enough, over the last few weeks my preferences in my brown shades have shifted. Before, I was all about rich pigmented brown shades, but this one, it's soft, it's sheer, but it's safe. And weirdly, I like it. I don't have to worry about blending too high or too low or massing my crease. I just swipe it over and it gives enough definition and framing to my colors. Always sparkly ones. And recently, that has been enough for me. Even now, when I'm working my way through this eyeshadow, I somehow feel discouraged to use it because I don't have other shades like this in my collection. And the same can be said about the shades 12 and 16. They are quite sheer, which I initially thought to be a big downside. But after I reconsidered how and where I placed them, I started appreciating them for what they actually are. Good, soft blending shades. Just throw them in the crease, put sparkly shade on the lid, mascara, and you're done. Easy, simple, effortless. And weirdly enough, I have grown to love this kind of simplicity. And I wouldn't have found it unless I had really spent my time with this eyeshadow palette. So now I have a question for you. Have you ever felt this slight shift in your makeup application preferences? Like you started loving and enjoying something that you didn't used to? Let me know in the comment section below. I would love to read all of your insights. Now let's talk about shade 11. It is a DIY mixture of shades 10, 12, and 16. And I use it to fill in my brows. Before, it used to hold this darker, sheer brown shade, which I used up as my bronzer, and it was actually one of the best DIY bronzer that I have ever done. I've used this eyeshadow 16 times, and since the original eyeshadows are very sheer, when I use this one to fill in my brows, it gives a very soft, very natural shadow. Nothing too bold or too blocky, something that I really enjoy for my day-to-day use. I think I can get like 10 more use out of this mixture, and I would definitely recreate it once I'm finished with it. So if you're interested to see how I do that, let me know. Getting back to shades 12 and 16. I've used both of them for my brow mixture, that's why you can see scratch marks on the surface. But recently I have rediscovered shade 12 as a great eyeliner. It is not as high pigmented, contrasting as the black liner, making it perfect for if you're wearing something simpler or if you're into softer looks. And I think it will be pretty universally flattering because purple has kind of cooler undertones. Unfortunately, I used it only twice as my eyeliner, but I promise to put extra effort in it. Shade 15 is another eyeshadow that I use as a liner. As you can see, I used a lot of eyeshadows as liner. I use it to set once a brown eye pencil, and the second time I use it to set a blue eye pencil. I really liked how it worked on the brown one. It was pretty subtle, while on the blue one, it kind of lost its shiftiness, this purple to green shift, and it pulled satiny blue, which I think it didn't look nice. I plan to use it on a green Sephora pencil, and I do have a sneaky suspicion that it should work better there. The last one is the shade 14. I use it 3 times as my nail polish and once all over the lid. Actually, this is what I'm wearing today, plus Gleona's Line of Queens on the top to make it more sparkle. I struggle with the shade a lot. Obviously, I tried to use it as a liner and it was a disaster. I had blue and pink sparkles all over my face, and that deterred me from using it once again. I just cannot find a staple look for that eyeshadow. The only way I can see for it to be used up is to do smoky purple eye, and I do not wear these a lot. So if you have any tips or suggestions how to use it, please let me know. I would love to hear them. Otherwise, I will just use it as a nail polish. I hope you didn't forget that I actually have 2 eyeshadow palettes in this project. So if this one was doing amazing, this one was not. I failed it miserably. I used only 2 eyeshadows for the eye look and of course lilac in a corner, and it turned out in the prettiest smoky eye look, which I really loved. So at least there is that. Pretty much untouched. And I fully blame my No Pen Left Behind palettes from May and June for that, because instead of using this pink and blue, I was reaching for the one from Nomad. My current No Pen Left Behind palette has a great dupe for Gigabyte, and instead of using Skin Shove Fever, I was focused on using the golden shade from this palette. It was just getting pushed aside all the time, and not just for this update. I feel bad, like really bad, because the whole reason of why this palette is actually in this project pan is because it is getting old. The formula is changing, and I want to get the most out of it while I could. Instead, I just ghosted it. I've decided to make yet another decision. For the remaining 2 summer months, I'm going to refocus, like until my next bi-monthly project pan update. I'm going to shift my attention back to my Pat McGrath palette, but not in aggressive hit pan kind of way, but more like savoring, enjoying, playing with each special eyeshadow. Because it won't feel right to force pan in this palette just for the sake of saying and boasting that I have finished one more eyeshadow by ignoring this palette, the one that initially inspired me to put this palette in this project pan in the first place. I don't want it to be yet another regret. So my new goal, focus on this palette, at least 5 uses for each shade. Tangible goals really motivate me. And of course, playing it to my full heart's content. How do you juggle the tension between putting an effort of finishing the eyeshadow and showing extra love to the palette that you accidentally neglected or don't want to lose to time? Let me know in the comment section below, because you always have the most amazing insights. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I'll see you next time. Bye.